Talking with the experts.
Then you're going to have to start using certain tools. Again, as a business owner, and I have a couple of clients who've tried to use the tools without me, right? And then I came along. So like SEMrush has a great competitor analysis tool. Something that has grown over the last few years is like voice search. So like there's actually I want to say it's alexa.com, but I can't remember the name of the actual website, but they do a lot of stuff within voice search. But you're going to need a tool, right? Moz has a great tool. Moz.com has a great keyword or competitor analysis tool. The thing that you're going to have to know is at least one competitor, right?
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name is Rose Davidson from rosesdavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Wendell Jordan from the US, from Jordan Marketing Consultants, and we're going to be discussing local SEO and what the difference is between like the normal SEO and what local SEO is. So Wendell Jordan Jr. is a passionate and dedicated professional in web designing and the digital marketing sector. He has 10 years of experience in sales and marketing, and currently he is the owner of Jordan Marketing Consultants, which is a digital agency focused on high ROI marketing solutions. Jordan and his expert team promote businesses with compelling digital marketing strategies and deliver measurable outcomes in real time. Welcome, Wendell, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. I always laugh when people say Wendell Jordan Jr., right? Because I am a junior, but I always put it because historically, got to differentiate between me and my dad. So
that's
always...
it. You got to do the right thing because, it's a very good saying that it's Wendell Jordan, and it could be Wendell Jordan Sr.
Yes, it could be. It could be. And he would be really confused if you asked him about local SEO. So,
so tell me a little bit about what the difference is and why businesses need it.
So the difference, SEO, is a timeless term, right? But if you're a business owner, some people have an understanding of it. Some people, it's literally just some cloud that you have to wrangle one day, right? When it comes to local SEO, and the most interesting thing is with local SEO, it doesn't matter where you are, right? Like you said, I'm US based, but no matter where you are, in the globe, you have a locality, right? Even if you're talking about, for me personally, I live in Houston. So when working with contractors or restaurants, having people coming from or marketing to people that are in Dallas, which is 4 or 5 hours north, is useless, right? No one's driving 5 hours for pizza. No one's driving 5 hours for a burger. So local SEO essentially is focusing on your local customer. It doesn't mean that you only service a local customer, but local SEO is hyper-focused. So it makes sure that the people who find you are within a certain distance to your actual business.
Yeah, so does distance, like, I understand like 4 or 5 hour drive away would be like quite silly, but I mean, in Australia, that's quite normal because it's,
right. Yes.
because we're huge. But question is it, how important is it to just stay within your locality predominantly rather than, going so much wider than, where you are?
Right. So it really depends on your industry. Like you said, also depending on, what the landscape looks like, depending on what parts of of the country you're in here, you may have a few hours drive, but again, when you're the business owner, the intention is to not waste money on marketing on people who will never, you'll never see a return on that investment. So even if we're thinking of, and I can't think of the term that you guys use there for people that do like home improvements and stuff like that.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, handyman. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I know there's a specific term for it. But they can only service up to a certain area, right? Otherwise, they start to lose money in travel, right? So here, again, being in Houston, we're a hurricane city, right? Like there's potentially one coming next week. Making sure that you're dealing with roofers that are local to, the roofs that you're looking to service are going to be, down here in the coast, as opposed to, again, traveling 6, 8, 10, because Texas is a huge state. You don't want to be marketing to people that are clean across the state when you have a locality. So the key to it for a business owner is to make sure that you're not wasting money on marketing to people who will never, return on that investment.
So it's a little bit like a phone book, I guess. You get niched into like a phone area. So you would market to, potentially to your phone area code rather than the next code over or whatever. Is that so? That's the premise behind it.
Well, it's a very similar premise. It's a very similar premise.
Makes heaps of sense. Right. So how does your agency then help promote this and get people to stay local?
Right. So, and I'll make it a little vaguer, right? Because I'll make it a more vague of a statement, because it's something that business owners can do themselves. And I know, like I did a little bit of research on your podcast, and I know, you're big on business owners, right? So I want to give them something that they can do on their own. You don't necessarily need a Jordan marketing consultants to do. You got to make sure that you're claiming your Google My Business. Make sure that you're on Yelp, even if you're not soliciting reviews on Yelp. You still need to claim that listing to make sure that your name, address, and phone number are aligned. There's a bunch of free tools that will allow for you to be able to look up how people are, what your name, address, and phone number look like. And again, this is a universal thing. Making sure that your Facebook is claimed, right? Sometimes, and Facebook's done a much better job with it, but it's very similar to Yelp, where if John Smith writes a review on Rose Davidson, the lady, right, and puts it at the end, it's very different than your actual name. So those would be two different listings. So you want to make sure that you're being cognizant of that. Bing Places is still a thing, but just making sure that you search your business from a private browser and just see how you come up. And any place where you can edit that information, make sure that your name, address, and phone number is coming up properly. In some cases, you may be a service area business where you don't have a physical location. So you want to make sure that that's listed, right? Like that your service area is the prominent piece in that, as well as the contact information, and making sure that the business name is aligned the same no matter where you go. Those are the things that we do at the beginning of our process. But again, any business owner can claim their Google My Business. You don't need a professional to do it. There's a little button. There's some words that say, "Are you the owner?" Right? You just click it, go through their process. They'll verify it with you, and make sure that once you get to Google My Business, you update everything. And then there's some other cool things that we do as far as like posting and making sure that we do keyword research, because ironically, the keywords may be the same on a national campaign versus a local campaign. And it's not adding the near me piece. It's just how we look at the data, right? So we're looking at the data from a hyper-focused space. So again, just using Texas as an example, my Houston area, I probably have maybe 15 cities that are local to me, right? 15 smaller little name cities that are within the greater Houston area. So within that, I'm looking at certain localities. So I'm looking at Dickinson, Texas. I'm looking at League City to see how search is evolving in my immediate area, as opposed to, the state of Texas, if you will.
So, local SEO versus, the huge, the normal one that people would think about. How important is keywords then? I mean, do you use the same keywords for a local, search, or do you use different ones than you would for the larger search?
So it's it's a little bit of both. When you talk about search engine optimization, right, SEO, your keywords are always going to be, a big part of that campaign. It's the same thing for local. The misnomer, excuse me, the misnomer is that it's the near me, right? I explain it to business owners that way because that's the way we understand it as a consumer. However, you don't necessarily put near me in search anymore, right? So if you're looking for a nail salon, you don't say nail salon near me. You assume Google knows what you're looking for, right? You know that it doesn't want you to travel 10 hours to go get your nails done. So with that, we're gonna be putting things in that are relative to nail salons, right? So we're gonna be talking about acrylics. We're gonna be talking about UV treatments and all those other things that go into that, not including a near me. So the keywords are just as important, but it's just about focusing on the data. So that's actually where when the data comes to us, and then to the client, we're looking at it specific to what people are searching in that area where they service, right? So if you're in Des Moines, Iowa, we're making sure that whatever that vicinity is that you want to service people and you want people to be found, we're putting those locations into our tools to be able to see exactly how frequently they're being searched locally. Because sometimes you'll see, like, I have an RV park as a client. RV parks it's such a niche, right? And there's RV parks all across America, all across the globe, right? So if you're doing an SEO campaign that's national, your RV parks, let's say you put RV parks with electric hookup, the search volume may be 10 million. But when you focus that down into Houston, it may only be 1,000, right? So now we need to decide, is this still a solid keyword when it's local? Because if it was a national campaign, sure, that's a great number. But when we're looking at it local, there may be 3 or 4 other words that actually populate much higher as far as search queries than something that would be more traditional in a national campaign or even a global campaign.
Makes sense. I guess that sort of leads on to the next question about how can you do the search, as a business owner myself, how could I do a search for people that, might do similar work that I do, within my local area? How can you differentiate Google from searching globally or nationally to locally?
Oh, that's a good question. So Google's really smart, right? So there's really nothing that we can do as consumers. It's hard for us as business owners to take that hat off and remember that we buy things usually way more than we sell them, right? Let's just be honest about that. So when you're thinking about, again, the services that you utilize as a customer, you don't always put near me. Your expectation is Google's going to know. So it's the same premise. If you're a local business, and I use service industry, if you're a roofer, there's going to be some roofers that run national campaigns, and there's going to be some roofers that run local. So you're going to see a little bit of both. Something that we like to make sure that we understand, that we define to our clients, is if you're a local business and local is your focus, we're not competing with the national guy. We're looking to beat out the local people, right? Because those are 2 very different ad spends and, just revenue generation in general, right? So we want to make sure that we're not, trying to tackle the bear, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're fighting local. We're not, it's not us versus the world. But as a business owner, just put your information into search, or put in your industry into search. You can include, your locality or whatever locality you're looking to branch into, and you'll get pretty decent results.
Yeah, the services that I offer are pretty nichey. I don't know that there are a lot of people doing because I don't do podcasting as my paid gig, so I do it because I want to help other business owners.
Right.
So how, I guess, if I were to put the search words that for my business, how would I then find out if I have competitors?
So then you're going to have to start using certain tools. Again, as a business owner, and I have a couple of clients who've tried to use the tools without me, right? And then I came along. So like SEMrush has a great competitor analysis tool. Something that has grown over the last few years is like voice search. So like there's actually I want to say it's alexa.com, but I can't remember the name of the actual website, but they do a lot of stuff within voice search. But you're going to need a tool, right? Moz has a great tool. Moz.com has a great keyword or competitor analysis tool. The thing that you're going to have to know is at least one competitor, right? You're going to have to at least be able to identify one person. And sometimes that can be hard. I mean, I'll speak for myself. For years, I told people we didn't have competitors, right? Because I had an agency before this one, and it's just not true, right? But I didn't necessarily do the research at that time because I wasn't an SEO guy. We were just web designers, and I say that, all the time.
No, you're not just anything. Without web designers, we wouldn't have, beautiful websites. So trust me.
Well,
yeah.
I say just because we built them and left them. Like we didn't do maintenance.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything.
No, I understand. Yeah.
We just sold websites and that was all that we did. But again, just to go back to being able to identify competitors, you're going to need a tool, something like a Simra, something like a Moz, sometimes Yelp. Because I mean, anything when you have a locality, you want to use a directory to see what other people see, right? That's an organic way. You don't have to pay for it. Depending on what your niche is, you're going to be able to find people in a directory. So even if you're just searching Google, we all see that little box on the right-hand side of so-and-so's, right? So, right. You had to think about, do I see the box? Yeah, the box, it's got all the information on it. That's a Google My Business listing. Now, depending on what you search, they've done a really good job of coming up, and then usually you'll have, especially if they're showing you a Google My Business listing, it's usually the results are going to be a little more local. But again, like a Yelp or any kind of local directory, an Angie's List, right? Like any kind of directory where you can just kind of pick around as a business owner. Those are great places to find people that do what you do and see what they're doing that maybe you might want to do a little bit better or.
My main reason I want to find out if I've got, what kind of competitors I have is for pricing, to say that I'm not actually pricing myself out of the market. And I think that's probably what a lot of other business owners, would want to use that information for, to make sure that they're not, underpricing themselves or overpricing themselves and trying to find that balance.
Right. You definitely want to be in market. Something that's always tough when you're talking about a digital space, right? Like for us, you have people who are racing to the bottom, right? There's people who do local SEO for a couple of $100 US, right? Like, they're doing it for $150, $300 a month, whereas we're closer to the $1,000 mark. But our biggest part to that is we're really aggressive with our campaigning, right? So we make sure that we leave no stone unturned, right? And we do it organically, right? So we're not really big into paid campaigns, but we're aggressive in how many keywords we're going to be searching, how many keywords we're going to be monitoring, and everything else. So it's definitely important to pay attention to that. As I built this agency, I spent a lot of time looking at what other people were charging and then had to figure out where I was comfortable. But like you said, you definitely want to know when you're talking to a prospect, if you're the person who only should be dealing with enterprise businesses, but you're talking to a much smaller one. So that's very true.
Yeah, I get that. And as a web designer yourself, I mean, I built my own 3 websites. Not too bad. I like creating websites, but I'm terrible at SEO.
Okay.
So keywords, how many keywords should you have in your SEO portion of your website?
Oh, so that's a great question. It's a tough one though. So there is no set number. You want to base it on that research that you do. So again, being able to use the tools the right way, you can take a competitor's website and see what keywords they're ranking for. Now, depending on the industry, depending on the competitor, sometimes you'll put, and sometimes it's intimidating even for me. I'll put a competitor in a search tool. I mean, in an analysis tool, and they'll come up with it'll say they have 20,000 organic keywords, right? 20,000, right? But then when you look at the keywords, it's not all, it's not industry specific. It's just stuff that they're ranking for. So when you're looking at it from a campaign perspective, it's a little different, right? Because the way you worded it, I just want to make sure I clean it up a little bit. When you're thinking about your website, every page is going to have keywords, right? So what your goal should be to figure out what your services are, right? I mean, of course, we already know you have your services, but now let's figure out what keywords fall within those services, right? Like, so for me, web design and local SEO, some of those keywords overlap, but they're different. So, when we're putting together content, that has keywords that are specific to web design, specific to WordPress, keywords that are specific to local SEO and generating revenue through local business and everything else. So again, it's a long answer, but you want to figure out what your competitors are doing first. Starting out, if you're doing this completely by yourself, I would say 5 or 10 keywords is a great starting point. Pick 5 or 10 keywords. You're going to need a tool to be able to monitor where you currently rank.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in, finding where I actually rank, because
Right,
I've got about 20 keywords on my website. So
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe that's too many.
Well, no, it just depends on what you're doing, right? Because something else that's important is that organic traffic. So looking at how much traffic you're generating, how that traffic is converting is going to decide if you want to put more keywords into play, and then B, are those keywords even working, right? Because if you've got 20,000 people coming to the site and you only average 2 sales a month, those 20,000 people may not be in your target audience, right? Like, you may be ranking great for a keyword that's hard to, even if it's a hard keyword to rank for, and you've broken the code and you're top 3, but it generates some revenue for you, it's still a moot point. So I wouldn't say it's too many keywords, because again, as you continue to create content, the number of keywords that you have on the site is always going to grow exponentially. It's just about which ones you're monitoring, and then deciding where the metrics are that are gonna get you to the goal, right? Excuse me. Just because it generates traffic doesn't mean it's your kind of traffic, doesn't mean it's going to make you sales. So even if it's a low hanging fruit keyword, if you can be in the top 3 for that keyword and it's only got, let's say, 1,000 queues a month, but those 1,000 people are perfect for you, if you're able to generate enough traffic from, and you're going to need more than one keyword, but I'm just being, if you're generating traffic and it's converting, why are we looking to be number 1 for the hard keywords, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're thoughtful with what the goal is first, figuring out the service, figuring out what keywords, and then we have to define what the goal looks like, because it's an iterative process. Sometimes you have this set of keywords, you get to the other side of it, and you realize that maybe these keywords aren't bringing in the audience that you expected. So now we need to reposition it. Maybe we'll add some keywords to the list. I'm competitive, so I want to monitor the keywords we've already started growing, because I want to see how great we can be. But it wouldn't necessarily, like, that's just my own personal campaign. But if it's a client campaign, we do have to reposition keywords from time to time, just to figure out how we can generate revenue off of this traffic, because sadly, the internet is not at the point where traffic alone generates us revenue. So.
And I love getting these emails from random people who say, "Oh, I've been to your website and you're not ranking for the keywords that they should be ranking." So they just get put in the bin straight away, because I think, well, really, what's it to you? And I'm not going to pay some random person who has no logo on their website signature or a phone number or anything like that. I think, really, how business orientated are they? I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I don't want to get scammed, or it's so easy to get scammed when, you get these people coming in. Maybe I'm too cautious. I don't know, but.
Oh, not at all. No, you hit it right on the head. Those emails, they're just spam, right? It's a spray and pray campaign. So they send, thousands of emails hoping that 1 or 2 of them come back. And whether you're ranking for the keywords or not, they probably haven't checked. But like you said, when you go to the site and the site has no logo, no contact information, they send it to you from @Gmail, right? I would completely stay away from those.
It's a bit nasty. So just if anyone's listening to this podcast that's been sending me really crappy emails with, just your first name, there's no surname, your email address is makes no sense whatsoever, and there's no business logo there, don't do it. because you'll
Right.
just get put in the bin or blocked either.
Right. Wendell does SEO at gmail.com is not, I would ignore all emails coming from places like that. The other thing, when you speak of the spam and the scams, be leery, and I don't know if they do it across the globe, but be leery of anytime someone tells you they're calling on behalf of Google or if they're calling from Google. Those phone calls are the most fraudulent. Anytime I get them, I try to give the salespeople a really hard time just because it makes my life hard, right? Because I'm a local SEO guy. So now here I come talking to you, and you've had 10 fake calls from places who claim that your business is not listed on Google or whatever it is. And I know firsthand that they tell you you're not listed on Google. You probably are, right? Because they tell me I'm not.
I am
that's what I'm
listed on
saying.
Google,
Right.
because I've got a Google My Business page.
Right.
So, you know.
Exactly. But I mean, they tell me I'm not listed, right? And I have a Google My Business page. So it's always great. I'm like, yeah, I'm not listed. That's so weird. I said it myself.
Yeah.
Certainly.
It's a pain in the butt, really. So
Certainly.
I guess we need to get down to the nitty gritties now. Have you written a book, or do you have a podcast?
I have not written any books, and I do not have a podcast. My only intention is I'm on a podcast tour helping people with local SEO, because I started doing local SEO before I knew it was called local SEO, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And we used to do this local directory thing, right, for businesses that we had at that time. And then it grew into something that other people understood. And now it has a true term, right? Because technically it was local SEO, but I don't ever remember anyone calling it that, that many years ago. So in finding the identity to my business, I realized we do SEO. I love doing web design, but web design without any marketing strategy sucks, right? Like I said, I just did websites. But my only intention is to talk about local SEO, help people understand, the fake emails, the fake phone calls. And again, of course, I'll take some business too, but the main goal is to just help people understand that local SEO is real, despite the fact that there's so many people out there scamming.
Yeah, and it's so sad that people have to go and try and scam others to get business.
Absolutely.
It's not right. But
Absolutely.
What do you do? Scammers have been around forever.
Forever.
All right. Wendell, where can people find you?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. You're going to see this funny looking face. You look up Wendell Jordan. It's actually not Junior on there though, because my dad's not on LinkedIn, so you don't have to worry about it. You won't ask him those questions he doesn't have answers to. I used to, and I want to make sure I make my joke. My email is wendell@jordanmarketingconsultants.com, but it's so many words to get wrong. I just tell people to go to LinkedIn, right? Because it's my web address is long and my name is like 11 letters. So
yeah, because my name's Rose Davidson, and I put a hyphen between Rose and Davidson, and some marketing person said, people won't find you, but you only have to type in Rose Davidson. You don't need to put the hyphen in there, and I come up. So really, it's just
they'll anything that they can poke a hole in, they will. They'll try to at least.
They do, certainly. I said no. All right, Wendell, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to impart with our listeners and viewers?
Now that's really the nitty gritty question. If there was one last thing, right? If they skip all the way to the end, claim your Google My Business listing, claim your Yelp, claim any local directory you can do for free. If you're trying to figure out where your competitors are, those same places where you have a directory listing, look for your competitors and just take the time to figure out what keywords make sense. And in all honesty, you can always reach out to me. Most answers are free unless they take a lot of time, right? So people can always reach out and ask questions, because I know local SEO it's a bit of a unicorn all in itself.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Yeah, because that's why I asked you the question before we went on air. What's the difference? Right. I thought it might have been, just a little pocket of people, but I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same boat.
Right. No, I completely understand it. I appreciate the question. The question, it's a great question. It is.
All right, Wendell, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our chat, and I'm going to go and stalk you on LinkedIn now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity.
You take care.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.